Hi, hello, welcome to my video. Today we will be debunking 5 different natural hair care myths by playing a fun little game called True or False. So, watch till the end to learn how these myths affect your daily hair care routines and obtain tips on how to stop falling for the hype in order to make smarter hair care decisions. There are many myths out there about the hair and the scalp floating all over the internet, which can be very dangerous if you don't seek professional education. So, my name is Deborah Joseph, also known as DJ, and I am a licensed cosmetologist since 2016. I am a salon suite owner as of 2020, and my suite is located right off of Biscayne Boulevard in North Miami. I am also an educator, and as an educator, my focus is educating the world on how to bridge the gaps between cosmetology, natural hair care, and protective styling. So basically, the art and science of it all. So, before we get deep into this video, I would like to mention that I am not alone on this mission to educate and bridge gaps within the natural hair care community. Recently, I believe that was back in 2020, 2021, I partnered up with the NHBC, also known as the Natural Hairstyle and Braid Coalition, based out in New York, in order to represent the Florida chapter. Yes, I am from Florida, Miami. We love it here. So for those who aren't familiar yet with the NHBC, they are a group of licensed natural hair care professionals on a mission to preserve the legacy of natural hair care through education and legislation. So we understand the value of education, training, mentorship in order to build sustainable and safe beauty businesses for our clients, right? So the NHBC is always seeking data and statistics to help improve and support the natural hair industry. But we need your help in order to do that, okay? So you can join the movement by clicking the link in the description below and fill out those surveys. It doesn't take long, I promise. And if you did complete the survey, leave a blue and gold heart emoji comment below, and feel free to let us know your thoughts as well, because it's really hard to get data collected from people like us, because we don't want to go in and share what our struggles are. But the more we shed light and share what our struggles are, we'll be able to find solutions, okay? So in today's video, we will be debunking 4C hair myths. So natural hair care myths that are geared towards those who wear braids, twists, locks, with or without extensions. If you're a hairstylist, a student, or the average client who likes to wear their natural hair or protective styles, this video is definitely for you. So let's play a game. True or false? Braids have to be tight in order to be neat in order to last longer. So the answer to that is false, okay? Braids do not have to be done tightly. Doing this can cause issues on the scalp, such as folliculitis. Braiders should have firm grip while using little to no tension. Using too much tension is what causes the client to be uncomfortable in the first place. So using too much tension can also accelerate hair breakage and worsen dry scalp conditions. Braiders should never yank or jerk the client's hair while braiding, okay? And clients should not be uncomfortable or in pain. If the client is, the service should be paused, and both the braider and the client should pause as a chance for both of you to stop, stretch, breathe. Like, this will help clear the tension in the braider's body and also help both you and the client relax, so that way you can stop hurting the client, okay? Braiders hold more tension in the wrists and the shoulders. So too much tension on the hair with or without extensions can cause serious damage to the hair follicle. In many cases, prolonged tension will create permanent loss, damage, thinning, even balding and scarring. In some extreme cases, alopecia will occur. Okay, I've experienced it personally. So removing patches of hair pulled out as well as leaving sensitive areas of the scalp tender and scarred. We don't want that. Okay, so there's no need to braid tight. There's really no need. Now I know this happens a lot, and we have the tendency to think the tighter it is, the better it's gonna be, the longer it'll last, but that's truly not the case at all, okay? You put yourself at risk to experiencing, like I mentioned before, the scarring, the irritation, the constant tension. That plays a role in what happens to your follicle, okay? And the more and more you attack the follicle, stress the follicle, the more likely the follicle will weaken and not be able to produce hair, if it even produces hair at all, okay? So a lot of the times people who tend to rely on protective styles as their go-to style, they're the main ones who's experiencing the thinning, the scarring, the bumps around the neck. Like I mentioned before, folliculitis, that's where you see all those bumps around the hairline, and that's because the vellus hairs, which are the tiny hairs in the front, in the back, what's called the baby hairs, those are being pulled and being weighed down with not only the braid as far as the tension, but also the extension itself. The synthetic fiber holds weight as well, because a lot of the time we're putting extensions in there like waist length, you know what I'm saying, sometimes knee length. That adds weight, and the more weight you add without being conscious of the type of tension is applied on the follicle, the higher the risk is for you to experience some form of thinning, hair loss, irritation, all of the things, okay? I would know because I personally experienced alopecia around my head, and it took for me to, as you can see, go the natural, no longer wear box braids, knotless braids, passion twists, sew-ins. I had to cut them all out, okay? I had to cut all of them all out. And it was the best thing I did, honestly. I mean, it was nerve-wracking at first because that was my identity, you know what I'm saying? Every time I needed my hair done or hairstyled, I would run to some form of braids. But then, you know, it's not until it was too late where I had a dry scalp condition that was acquired while wearing the braids for so long, or wearing the braids so tight, and it also caused me to experience alopecia. So it was alopecia areata. So it was my hairline, of course. It was also like the middle of my head, and I remember I had like serious flaking and like a bald patch here, like behind my ear. Well, it's not here anymore, as you can see, but yeah, I do have my baby lock growing. Yeah, she's growing, but that's basically it. So all that to say, it is false. There is no need to braid tight, honey. The braid is going to look snatched and clean as long as you know how to properly lay and smooth down the hair with your forefingers and not your nails. Because a lot of y'all out here doing hair and y'all using y'all nails and it shows, okay? Frizz is everywhere. You're scratching your scalp. You're irritating. It's bad, okay? Once I started using my forefingers and my palms for the hair, and that goes for all hair, wigs, synthetic, real hair, human hair, curly hair, straight hair, all hair, okay? Once you use this instead, baby, the detangling and the frizz is reduced by a whole lot, and there's less work and force you have to use in order for you to deal with the hair. And a lot of the time we're so rough with it because we're not taking our time, right? We're not applying gel the proper way. We're not smoothing things down and using the proper amount of tension or using the right positioning when it comes to like how we're using our hands, right? So just want to make sure you know that no, it is not okay to braid tight. No, it is not something that we should be okay with doing. It is not okay. There's no need to braid tight. And if I have hurt you, if there was any time you sat in my chair and you felt like I was braiding too tight, I am sorry. If you feel something, say something. I've noticed we have this crazy trend in our community, the black community especially, where they feel like the tighter it is, the better it is, so they won't say anything and just sit through the pain. And that's not how things work, okay? You're literally hurting yourself and putting your follicles at risk. And I be in my zone, okay? I am just working, honey, so I don't feel anything. So lately, for the past year, I've been able to I've been trying to gauge the pain meter with my clients. So I always tell them, and I tell them more than once because they have the tendency, like I said, to sit through the pain because they're accustomed to the trauma that we put on ourselves in the black community. So I'll tell them, hey, if you feel something, say something. And if they do say something, I'll ask them, where is the pain? And on a scale of 1 to 10, and what can I do to ease up? And that's it, and we keep it pushing, okay? Most of the time, if they're feeling something, it's because a small piece of hair is snagging from another section, or it's because my shoulders are raised up high, and I am braiding, my knuckles are just so inverted that I'm not relaxed, and now I'm yanking on the head, okay? I've got a much better handle on it the past couple years. I'll be braiding people's head, and they don't feel a thing. I'll be doing people's hair, and they don't even know I started braiding, and I'm halfway through the head, okay? So I have mastered that. I have people falling asleep in my chair to the point where now I need a reclining salon. I have a reclining salon chair for me to style my clients, especially if you are in a suite or in a regular salon and you can get your own chair. I highly suggest you get a reclining salon chair because, baby, if you're the type to do services that last longer than 3 hours, that salon chair is going to get you right, okay? Not only will the client be comfortable, but so will you, okay? So yeah, that is for number 1. Moving on to number 2. You have to scratch the scalp in order to remove buildup. That's false. Scratching your scalp, skin, which is the same thing, damages the epidermis, the top layer of the skin, and damaging that negatively affects the follicles. A weakened or damaged follicle produces weak hair, if any hair at all. Scratching it can also result in irritation, bruising, redness, scarring, and weak hair growth. So like I mentioned before, your best bet when it comes to working with the hair and massaging or exfoliating the scalp, you want to use these parts of your hand. Never the nails, okay? Never the nails. The nails are what's actually causing you to create split ends, increase frizz, scar the follicle. You'd be shocked at how the little things we do are negatively affecting our results for our hair care routines, okay? So it's gonna take a lot of adjusting too because you're used to that feeling of you using your nails directly on the scalp, but I've seen what it's done personally because, once again, I've gone through it. I actually experienced atopic dermatitis, which is just a fancy way of saying the chronic version of eczema, and I had it for 7 years. I was not born with it. I was actually low-key on my way to adulthood when I attracted it. I gave birth to my son at the age of 17, and boom, broke out. And it stayed that way for about 7 years up until I turned 24. Now, a video on how I cured my eczema, I had 2 skin biopsies done. Let me see if this video, you can see how they took out pieces of skin so they can magnify it and see what was going on, because when I tell you I had it all over my body and it was bad, and itching, it made it worse. So just doing this, okay, you see how lightly I just scratched it? And this is what they teach you in cosmetology school, okay? Well, if you have a good teacher. I did. Miss Liz, shout out to you, Miss Liz. Just doing that right there on a microscopic level, I just damaged the epidermis on my skin, okay? There's already some form of abrasion there. And so imagine when you're intentionally scratching or popping a pimple. Think about that when you're popping a pimple. Don't look at me because next week, it's that time of the month and she's just coming out, okay, as far as acne on my face. But when you pop a pimple, when you attack that skin, don't you notice that you now bruise the skin, and sometimes hyperpigmentation happens, discoloration happens, the skin gets even more darker or lighter depending on your skin tone, and it's hard for it to go away, or it doesn't go away at all. Now you're left with dark marks all over it like I am on my skin, okay? And I'm still doing my best to implement what I'm learning every day into my own daily practices. So I get it. This is a judgment-free zone. I just know that I want to use myself as a resource to everyone around me, as far as my clients, my students, the public, so that the more information you have, the better choices you can make for yourself, okay? No matter how long that takes, as long as you have the information readily available to you. So, as I mentioned before, I used to scratch all the time, and it wasn't until I realized my dermatologist telling me doing that's gonna make things worse. It's gonna attack your pores, it's gonna attack your follicles. So, be careful and switch from using the nail to the four fingers. That's what I like to call them, the four fingers or the paw. Okay, so that's what you do if you get itchy. And honestly, when you think about it, when you're massaging instead of scratching, what that does is not only does it relieve the irritation that you're experiencing in the first place, it also, if you're doing it on your head specifically, it stimulates the scalp without hurting and applying tension on the follicle. Okay, so you're actually not only helping stimulate the scalp when you're massaging it and using your forefingers, also you are stimulating blood circulation. And when it comes to hair growth, that's what you need. The follicle has is made up of a dermal papilla, which is made up of stem cells and all these wonderful network of nerves, but these nerves need blood. They need blood in order to pump what's necessary. They need blood and oxygen, water, vitamin D, sun, just like a plant, okay? In order for it to produce and do its job, okay? So, like I mentioned for number 2, there is no need to scratch, okay? Rub, baby, rub, okay? And it's also a stress reliever. So when you're massaging instead, there's so many benefits. You're also relieving your stress. So a lot of the time, our follicles weaken, become degenerative because we're like constantly experiencing some form of stress, whether that's physical trauma, whether that's emotional, we're experiencing constant stress. And with this stress, it weakens the follicle. And a weakened follicle does not produces a little small amounts of hair if it does produce hair at all, okay? So that's where the thinning and the balding is way more prevalent. Let's stay away from the itching and scratching. And let's get some rubbing on, okay? Let's opt in for some rubbing instead, okay? Also, it will provide the same amount of detoxification if that's what you're worried about. You don't have to be in pain to get clean or to get the desired results you want, okay? My black people, let's stop hurting ourselves. We don't have to anymore. We have information now that's easily accessible, readily available. Let's use it, okay? Let's use it. Okay, number 3, oil makes your hair grow. Somebody won't shoot me for this, and honestly, I don't care, okay? The answer to this is false. Hair has its own growth phases, known as the anagen, catagen, and telogen phases. So hair is always growing, whether you're using products that claim to do so or not. Oils do nourish the hair and scalp to give it a healthier environment to grow, but it does not necessarily initiate growth nor accelerate it. Many hair care products claim to aid, support, or promote hair growth because it does not create any actual biological changes to speed up hair growth. Okay, so like I mentioned before, it's a great additive, but it's not the accelerator. Okay, it doesn't do anything for the scalp because if our hair was not growing, we would all be hairless mole rats walking around, okay, on the face of this earth. But because we have hair all over our body, when we're born, we have hair all over our body except the palms of our hands and the soles of our feet, okay? So when it comes to all of that hair on our body, we have different types too, like the vellus hair, which is what we call baby hairs, or peach fuzz, which is usually on our body, and then we have the terminal hair, which is usually on the top, the middle, the crown, the back of our head, right? So, in case you were wondering which oil to recommend and baby, I'm not about to recommend nothing. A growing scalp is a healthy scalp. And a healthy scalp is a clean scalp. And if you're always bombarding your scalp with oils, you're not even, first of all, if you're the type who does not like to wash their hair, but likes to use a lot of oils, this is for you, okay? The lack of hydration and cleansing and the overuse of oils is gonna create an issue. I was there, I did it, and I didn't realize that was a problem. I used to love thick oils, shea moisture, shea butters, coconut oils, castor oils, you name it, I had it. I probably still do, just haven't used it anymore. Back then when I was, traumatizing myself with braids and all of that, and not allowing my hair to get washed consistently and often enough, I would bombard my scalp with oils. And I wasn't even checking what type of oils. I just knew it was an oil. It had a pretty package, a pretty label on it. It said it grows hair. Boom, I was sold. It had some fancy names of different oils in there, and I was sold. But that's not how it works, okay? I'm in training to become a trichologist. So I'm actually looking at the hair and scalp on a much deeper scientific molecular level, so that way I can help treat and take care of my clients on a deeper and molecular level. Noticing how, oils. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to oils. I'm gonna give that its own separate video because that's going to take time. I actually want to break it down for everyone, from lipid levels to different types as far as essential, which are plant extracted, or the carrier oils, which are seed extracted, and then you also have mineral oils. So think of Vaseline, baby oil, petroleum, right? A lot of these oils are contained with all three. But the problem with that is when it comes to the carrier oils, those can be pretty fatty. Even some seed extracted oils can be pretty fatty. They can be pretty high in lipid levels. So that can cause clogging in the follicle. So think of this as a follicle, and think of this as your hair, okay? In the follicle, what happens is this hair, when you put oil on top, the oil sits on top of the hair, and it sits inside of the follicle, and it blocks and clogs the follicle, especially if there isn't water, a water bead laying under that layer, so it can continue to support the scalp, give it the suppleness it needs, help the scalp get the nutrients it needs, absorb oxygen better, all of the things. The oil, if you're putting that oil on there without adding water, baby, you're making things worse. Oils and waters don't mix, but oil does help seal in moisture, which is water, when necessary, okay? But you gotta apply that water first. So like I mentioned, if you're the type who doesn't like to wash your hair often, if you're the type who likes to wear braids for 3-4 months at a time, protective styles, sew-ins, wigs, if you're the type who likes to just throw on an oil and not necessarily hydrate the scalp first, I'm talking to you. Put that oil down and detox your scalp. It's gonna change your life. I'm telling you, you're gonna realize that less is more. You're gonna probably throw away half of your closet out, and whatever situation you had that was pre-existing, we'd now be able to balance because you're listening to the information that's being provided, okay? Stop following the hype on TikTok, because there are a bunch of teenagers and kids and unlicensed unprofessionals who don't know what the fuck they're talking about, but they do want some views, so they know how to reel you in. Be careful. And also, one last thing when it comes to that point, hair care is not one size fits all, okay? Hair care is not one size fits all, okay? As you can see, for me, this is my natural hair, and this is synthetic on the bottom here. This is a whole nother story we'll get into, a whole nother video. We're not gonna do it today. But as y'all can see, hair care is not one size fits all for anyone and everyone. I have 2 sisters, and none of us have the same hair type. I have my mother. Her hair type is not the same as mine either. Yet we all have the same blood and the same chromosomes, or whatever you call it. So that goes to show you there's no need to fall for what you see on YouTube or TikTok, unless it's professional advice provided by a professional who also knows how to customize and personalize it just for you, okay? Not for them or what they've gone through in their experience, also what's for you. So this is just to enlighten you and to motivate you to get some actual real information on what your hair is, what your hair type is, what it needs. And when you book with me and you get a consultation, you get all this information. We create your hair ID, things you didn't know before, you understand, you learn. We debunk myths there too, questions you've been thinking about, holding on to for so long. You get them answered by me. You get product suggestions. We even go in deep about the products you're using at home. I actually have you bring them to me, and I read them word for word, and I teach you how to understand them and how to choose the right products to do specific things, okay? It's a whole thing. Alrighty, so moving on to number 4. Braiding your hairline can weaken or rip out your edges. True. The hairline contains vellus hairs, as I mentioned before. Vellus hairs are much more fragile than the hair towards the middle of your head, also known as the terminal hair. Because vellus hair is much more fragile, tension shouldn't be applied there. Styles like braids and wigs that require the application of glue to cater to the to apply glue there can cater to the damage of your hairline. If you are braiding a client with a thinning hairline, I suggest you do larger sizes around this area and comb out the baby hairs to help preserve that hairline as well. As I mentioned, I think it was in fact 1 or 2, where when you're using excessive amount of tension and in combination with the weight of the braid, that can cause serious issues. Okay, especially when you're careless about what's happening around the client's hairline, which is usually where the thinning begins. It always is either at the middle of the top of the head or around the hairline. That's usually what I see. And those who have it here in the middle of the top of the head tend to love wearing ponytails or use relaxers or use keratin, blowouts and heat all the time. They love heat styling. And I noticed that those who have a hairline that's missing or thinning, they love to wear protective styles, from sew-ins to braids, and even full relaxers as well, where they'll put it on their hairline first, which we don't do. Never ever put relaxer on your hairline first. Never. I've seen too much madness online. Please don't. Relaxers really should not be sold in stores where it's readily accessible to regular civilians. Just like certain colors, developers, and bleaches have to be made available in stores where only licensed professionals can acquire them, I believe the same should apply to relaxers and texturizers. They contain ammonium diblockite. Lie. Like, come on. These things give you 3rd-degree burns. Why the fuck do they think we know what we're doing at home? But to each his own. This is a whole other topic for a whole other day. As you can see, I got a lot to talk about, but I'm gonna just drop as much gems as I can in a short amount of time. Okay. Next up, we have number 5, which is heat protectant oil protects the hair. Baby. That's a false. Okay. Now, adding an oil or serum-based heat protectant on the hair prior to applying heat can cause more harm than good. Heat and oil put together may create a high smoke point and can result in frying the hair shaft, just like cooking a meal, okay? So replace the oil serum for like a leave-in spray or conditioner that also promotes protecting the hair from heat damage. My favorite that I like to recommend is by Mizani. Mizani has the 25 milk, it's like a 25 milk leave-in spray, something like that. The Miracle Milk, my God, I've been hooked on that for the past maybe going almost on 2-3 years now, and it's never failed me. If anything, I'm able to use one bottle. I can actually separate it and like pour half out and dilute it with water. And now instead of one bottle, I have 2 bottles of this spray, and it's still just as soft and does everything that I needed to do. It's very concentrated, it's milk-based, and for those who have curly hair, kinky hair, tight coils like me, milk and honey is your favorite when it comes to styling, okay? And also for curl preservation and detangling, for everything. So, thank you for joining me today. These were some 5 little quick things that I wanted to go over. There will be more videos like this because my clients come to me with the craziest questions. And honestly, I used to get agitated before because it's like, where the fuck are you getting this information from? But then I realized this is an opportunity to be able to not only re-inform them, but also the masses. So come to me with all the questions you've got. Throw down some comments. There should be some information left readily available to you in the description. And if you do have ideas about like videos or more myths you want me to debunk, drop it in the comments, baby. I want to hear it all. You can follow me on Instagram at djstylesmiami. Also, don't forget to follow the MHBC on Instagram as well. We are doing great work, and we are doing it with you, the Black girls, the Black boys in mind, okay? Men, women, children, all of us who have our tight coils, we are making education and legislation a priority for us, okay? So thanks again for joining, and until next time. Mhm.